I decided that today's talk would be this. What does it mean to be one with God? And that's a really big question. It's a really big question because people are always talking about, how can I feel one with God? And most people say it's when I feel good. Well, if you feel good, that's what? An emotion. It's a one-sided emotion, is it not? Well, then what are you experiencing? You're experiencing only a part of the divine. The part that is God, there is no feeling. People are talking to me all the time about the idea, I want it to be more heart-centered. What they're really implying, because I don't think they've thought this through, is they're talking about they want it to be more emotional. They want to feel more. Well, here's what happens. If we feel good, we get really, really feel good, guess what's going to happen? Contrast is going to come in because there's always balance. Does that make sense? There's always balance in the universe. So when we are in a heart-centered mood, what heart-centered means to me is that we understand who we are and we're moving toward what we want. In other words, our heart has shown us this is the path I want to take. This is my uniqueness. And in that, my heart says, okay, Spirit within me, guide me toward that next step. And then when that next step comes, I step into it. But heart-centered is not about feeling good. Heart-centered is about being aligned with your truth and moving toward your truth. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to separate this idea that there's an emotional feeling when you're experiencing the divine. If you talk to all the great meditators in the world, Thich Nhat Hanh, Sadhguru, the Dalai Lama, all these people, Eckhart Tolle, who've been meditating for years, they will tell you that the feeling of the divine is the feeling when you have no thoughts, no feelings, no emotions. It's just stillness. And yet, we're not here to be that, are we? That's the essential nature of who we are, we are the divine individualized, but we're here to experience life. So there's an aspect of the divine, and that's what we're going to explore today. We are always in universal mind God, and this mind is always creating for us what we think. And as we are thinking creatures, always thinking, our happiness depends on our thoughts. So there is a universal mind, call it God. It's infinite, all-knowing, everywhere present. It has individualized itself as everything. You're a point of consciousness within the individual mind. In the individual mind, the very power of it is responding to the nature of your thought. And you are always thinking. Do you realize that? You are always thinking. Whether you're conscious of it or whether you're unconscious of it, there's thoughts happening. So taking this a step further, universal mind has no choice but to create whatever has been given to it. Do you get that? Whatever the sum total of your thoughts are, this universal mind, this power that exists everywhere that you are thinking into, must give you what you're thinking. And it's not just your conscious thoughts. Remember, your conscious thoughts are only about 5% of the thoughts that you have during a day. 95% about what you think is unconscious. And it's basically patterns that you've built up through the years. Most of those patterns are from when you were between the age of 0 and 7, and your brain was in theta state. And in theta state, you're in a hypnotic state, and whatever you observe, you take in. So you feel good when you observe something that fits your theta state from 0 to 7. The question is, you've got to ask is that what I really want? Do I want the relationships my mom and dad had? Answer the question for yourself. Do you want the same relationship with a life partner that your mom and dad had? I said no to a lot of it. I said yes to some of it. I think there's good in everything, but you have to seek through that, search through that, and find out what is the good that you want to consciously bring, and then the rest you start to recreate. And so a comment came to me the other day about Well, how do you change the subconscious mind? Well, think about this. If you're doing affirmations in prayer, you're really hitting it 5% of the time. And you got 95% out there. How do you affect that subconscious mind at a deeper level? First off, if you're just going to use your conscious time, there's a lot of work involved, and you want to use your conscious time. For me, there's two methods, and the one that I've had the most success with is hypnosis. Hypnosis actually takes you out of your conscious mind, taps into your subconscious mind. If you are working with the right person or you understand self-hypnosis, you then implant into your mind that which is there. That's going deep into the subconscious nature of your mind. That's the quickest way. Believe it or not, Ernest Holmes talked about that all the time. He was huge into the aspect of hypnosis. The other thing that you could do is you could have affirmations playing on a recording all night while you're sleeping, and your subconscious mind will blindly start to absorb them, just like you did when you were from 0 to 7. If you're looking for that, go to YouTube, Google Lee Wolak on YouTube, and you'll see that there's an 8-hour meditation that you can play while you're sleeping, filling you with affirmations that will change your mind. But that's where the work is. The first step in the work is, what do you want? You've got to determine what is it that's truly what you want, and then you channel your efforts into changing the subjective mind. The universal mind gives whatever's given to it. It could contradict that. It could contradict that thought. I forgot that one word. See how one word changes everything? If it could contradict it, then it would not be a unit. In other words, if it could contradict itself, it means it's two. But the universal mind is only one, because we understand that whatever we call God is infinite, so there's only one. It cannot be anything else. And since this would be recognizing something outside itself, God, universal mind, does not recognize or judge anything, because to do so, there would have to be something outside of it. And being infinite, there can be nothing outside of it. So if there is judgment, judgment is coming from the human mind, not the divine mind. The human mind sees duality. The human mind has ego that is judging. There is no judging God. Get over that. Get over that idea. That's something we were fed. And it's not the truth. The infinite cannot judge, because it would be judging what? Itself, because you're it expressed and individualized. The universal mind only knows to make whatever it is given. So it can't give you something that you haven't become. And that's the key. Mentally, emotionally, in your actions, in everything you do, that becomes who you are, and what you are, you attract to you. We were in class this morning, we were talking about the idea of a space. And now there's an energy in a space, and that energy affects us. And think about, they talked about in your home. Have you created a sacred energy in your home? Have you consciously made an energy? Like the bedroom, does that have an energy? Does the kitchen, does that have an energy? Is it a conscious energy? Or are you taking stuff in? Are you arguing in the whole house? When I grew up, arguments were happening in every room of that house. Now, in our home now, we made a conscious choice. In this home, there's no arguing happening in any room. Any room is for the purpose of joining and creating. In this space here, we're creating our own energy. We're creating an energy that feeds us, that nurtures us, that causes us to be open to receive. The reason why people feel limited is because they do not understand what universal mind is. People think that the power to create is within their little mind, not realizing that it's not their little mind that's creating, but rather it's the infinite mind that created all things, and that mind is responding to the nature of our thought. The ordinary person only thinks of mind from the limited perspective of their environment. Think about that. Here we are in this beautiful ballroom, and we're seeing life from a standpoint that's very, very different than if you were in Yemen right now. If you were in Yemen right now, where they're starving to death, where they don't know where their next meal is coming from, where there's bullets flying everywhere, people are dying left and right from all sorts of things. There's a different consciousness there. The question is, we get into our little mind-made ideas, and we don't like where we are, and we allow little itty-bitty things to get us down when we don't realize how much we've got. And remember, universal mind is responding to the idea of how grateful are we. Universal mind says, if you're grateful for something, guess what? It's going to give you more of what you're grateful for. But if you're moaning and complaining and you're talking about how bad your past was and all of this, what's universal mind going to give you? Exactly that. So if you're dealing with a psychiatrist or psychologist that's constantly going and bringing up your negative story, what is universal mind hearing? Your negative story. And what is universal mind going to bring you? Your negative story. The idea is, how do we find and take that story that we perceive negative and turn it to see what good came out of it? Because here's the thing, as negative as you think something is, as much good came out of it as you believe is negative. Why? Because the universe is always in balance. Always in balance. No matter what is happening, it has to be in balance, because if it's not, it will self-destruct. The universe could not exist if there was not balance. There's always going to be death and birth. Death and birth. There will always be that. When some aspect of your life dies, something aspect in your life is born. Someone leaves your life, someone new comes in. It's always that way. There is never a vacuum or a void in the universe. It's only in a limited perspective that we have as humans that we will have that experience. So it's about getting our minds right and wrapping it around it. People who think many kinds of thought must expect to receive a confused manifestation in their lives. Let that one sink in. Let that one really sink in. So over here, yeah, I'm positive thinking. Oh, crap, look what's going on in the world. Oh, yeah, I'm positive thinking. Oh, crap, what's going on in the world? Are you giving a clear message to the infinite within you? No. What are you going to get back? A confused manifestation. And how many people, you've heard me say this. If you've been to Agape, you've heard me say this 1,000 and thousands and thousands of times. We must be persistent and consistent with our daily spiritual practice. What is spiritual practice? It's any practice that we use to direct the power of creation in our lives toward that which we desire. The second you take your mind off of what you desire, you're putting it on what you don't desire, you're now mixing your message up. When you mix your message up, the universe is going to give you confused manifestation. It's that simple. It's really mathematical and it's scientific. You can't manipulate the law. The law gives you who you are. That sucks, doesn't it? You can't go, I want this, and then go hide over here and say, you know what? No, the law hears everything. You can't hide from the law. And as we play the song here, I fought the law and the law won. The law always wins. Always wins. And your life is always a manifestation of your use of the law. We are not dealing with a good power and an evil power, but with one power that sees neither good nor evil. It only knows that it is all, and since it is all, it creates whatever is given. Do you see that? The infinite does not know good or evil. There is no such thing to it. So it just naturally creates whatever is given to it because it is just creating. It is just creating. So why do we meditate then? How is meditation valuable to us if we're not directing the law? Because meditation is not about directing the law, is it? It's about becoming still. Well, when you've got all this stuff going on, it's really important that we reboot. It's like a computer. When all the programming gets that, you reboot the computer, and the computer all of a sudden goes back to the way it was, and now it can function again. So when we meditate, we're literally rebooting the computer. We're clearing our mind because in meditation, we stop the thought process As we stop the thought process, the mind becomes clear. We have a clear slate. Now, with a clear slate, we start implanting prayer, affirmations, whatever. We have a jump start on it. But if you're not doing the meditation, you're not quieting the mind, it's hard to go from thinking thoughts over here to all of a sudden interjecting thoughts over here and change the consciousness. You really have to stop and you have to reboot. And if anything, the most important thing that you can do in this thing is to be grateful for everything. Because when you're grateful for everything, what are you doing? You are acknowledging that you understand that the law is working. Do you really hear what I just said? When you are grateful for everything, not just what you like, what you're doing is you are affirming and understanding that the law that you are using is working. Whoa, that's a self-realization, isn't it? That is really what? That's the connection you're looking for to realize that you're one with God. Because if you don't understand that everything that you are talking, speaking, thinking, and acting on is creating, then you don't know you're one with God. It's just an illusion. It's just words. And that's where most people are most of the time. They're living in the illusion that they're not one. The key thing is, how do we test this for ourselves so we get the idea and we start living it because we have proven it to ourselves and we believe it? Now, here's the thing. When you believe something, you do not care what anyone else says. Did you hear that? Because when you believe it, you've proven it to yourself. Most people will give you a logical, rational argument, and they've not proven squat. Just look at their lives. I forget the guy who said it, your actions speak so loudly that I cannot hear what you say. Was that Emerson? I think it was. Your actions speak so loudly, I cannot hear what you say. What is that saying? It's saying that your life, the way it is demonstrating, is not demonstrating what your words are. Ergo, I don't believe a single thing you say. If you go to a personal trainer who's way out of shape and he or she tells you, do this exercise and it'll get you in shape, are you going to believe that trainer? No. But if you go to a trainer that's got a fit body like you're seeking to build, you believe that. Here's a great one. I love this going to the gym. This is one of my favorite things about going to the gym. You'll see a young trainer, 25 years old. Buff, men, women, buff, just cut. Training 65 and 70-year-old people who haven't lifted a weight in 70 years and expecting them to do what a 25-year-old would do. And they're there and they train with them 2 or 3 times and you never see them in the gym again. Because the focus wasn't right, was it? You've got to understand where are people coming from. You've got to understand that focus. And so when you're looking at people, understand that people are going to have their perspective and it's all good. However anyone is focusing, it's all good because they're one with God. They're using the law partially conscious, partially unconscious. I'm using the law conscious, partially unconscious. You're using the law conscious and partially unconscious. Let's just give each other freedom to be ourselves. Wouldn't that be great if we just gave ourselves the freedom to be ourselves? Isn't that what love is? If you really break this down, love is the ability to give yourself freedom to be you. And because you've given yourself freedom to be you, you can now give everyone else in your life freedom to be them. Now we've created a world that works for everyone because we've created a world that is love. Let's pray. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.